Go.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Pflugerville. How about that? A Church of Positive Prayer. We've got to get that in there. Today we're talking about enhancing more of our spiritual path. I don't know about you, but I've been looking at the new year has caused me to look at where I am, where I'm going, where I want to be, where I haven't been, all that kind of stuff. And looking at where it didn't work for me in 2017. And I've been going through this process of watching my language. And the spiritual path includes silence, meditation, time with Spirit. Centering Prayer Organization says at least 20 minutes silence in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, or the early evening. Reading some sort of positive book, if you will, maybe even the Bible. I found out this week that Edgar Casey is one of the spiritual leaders of the past. Used to go through the Bible from beginning to end every year. He would start reading in Genesis in January, and then by December he finished all the way through Revelation. Also found out Charles Fillmore spent hours and hours in meditation. So all the great spiritual leaders have done those kind of things. But the other thing is, what else is done? And I know one of the things is hanging out with people that think the same way, rather than the conversations that occur out there. And the word conversations got me to looking at what words I use and what kind of conversation I have. And back into the original ideas of the power of the spoken word. And I've been looking at this past week, and I happened to run into Bible verses, if you're familiar with those things. So I would like to share some of those ideas with you today. The first idea I ran into, I was looking at the daily word for today in Ephesians. And it's in Ephesians 3:20 and 21. You heard Valerie read it. And for some reason I started reading more, and in my Bible I have certain things underlined that I need to look at. So I just happened to glance across the page and I saw Ephesians 4:29, and I'd like to read it to you. Okay? So anybody familiar with those convenient things that happen during the week? We happen to fall into something, or somebody said something and it sparks thought. So that's what happened to me with this Ephesians. So, Ephesians 4:29. And Ephesians 4:29, after I get my glasses on.
Oops.
Did I make enough noise?
I'm awake.
I turned you off.
It's in here somewhere. There it is. Okay. I got it. Okay, this is very, very interesting word. Okay, it says, let's see, Ephesians 4:29. Here it is, it's coming. 29. Let no corrupt communication pour out of your mouth. Hello. Now, that's the negative part. And we're going to learn to speak positive. So then it goes on and says, you ready? But that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. So first of all, it says, don't talk negative. Got it? Period. Now, in the metaphysical environment, we know that what we speak, we create. The ethers, or whatever they are out there, the energies, the universal energies, we form because we are creations, expressions of God. And as we speak, our vibrations of our mouth, the vibrations of our thinking, go out into the universe and create that which we have spoken. This is really a fact as far as I'm concerned, and if you get into quantum dynamics, you know that thinking creates things. So what we're doing is talking basics, that what I speak, I create. And so what I've been looking at is, what do I speak? And since I don't like what's in my life, how did it get there? Because I don't know about you, but my life isn't working as clearly as I would like it to. I'd like a few more resources around to do what I'd like to do. By now, I expected to have the church built, all those kind of things, okay? So the idea behind that is, what am I speaking, what am I creating, and all I have to do is look in my life to see what I'm speaking. And I don't like it. Now, when I say that, believe me, I'm happy and things are good. but they could be better. Anybody agree? Things could be better. And so, what am I speaking? What am I doing? Who is creating that stuff out there? And that's one of the biggest issues that we deal with. I've had people tell me, please don't tell me what's true all the time. Because the truth is, I'm responsible for what I've created in my life. There are no victims. There's only victims of my own thinking and speaking. So the idea behind the whole process is, how do I talk? Paul tells us, and I'm going to read it again, because he uses a fancy word called edifying, which, by the way, is a very excellent word. So I'm going to say it again. Everybody ready? Here it comes. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth. So what is corrupt? Unnecessary, judgmental, error, anger,
corrosive,
say it again, corrosive, interesting word, fear, could be people I don't like, politicians I don't like, and I have people tell me don't talk politics, but we got to, because it's real and that's what we're creating. So whether you like it or not, who is creating those folks out there that I don't like? And if I'm talking about them in a negative way all the time, am I complicit in creating them? The answer is yes. Okay, it's a tough one. Because I want to speak my piece. Everybody from here, I have the right to speak my truth. Well, my truth is what I speak, I create. And for me, I need this conversation. So please pardon me while I talk to myself today. Okay? And it's getting clearer and clearer and clearer. And I fall into it so easily. I hate to admit this, just half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, I was complaining about the rules and regulations in Austin. And we can't get things built in Austin because they have rules and regulations that restrict. Okay? But it's easier in Pflugerville. So what was I doing to Austin?
Making it
Do
harder.
you hear it? Yeah, creating more rules and regulations. Now that's on a national basis now too, so we're going through all this stuff. And in looking at it, the next part of this verse says, you ready?
Maybe.
Next part says, okay, but that which is good to the use of edifying. And you got to look up the word edifying. Where did I put my notes? They're over here somewhere. Anyway, edifying means adding to, encouraging, improving, using words that make a difference in somebody's life. Okay? And do words of criticism, condemnation, and complaining edify? The answer is no. They tear down. And they're designed to tear down because the ego wants us to stay in that negative state of mind. And so anybody, if you stop and think about it, it's easier to complain. Okay? I've had several of you here today during the last week, 2 weeks, share with me that you've stopped looking at TV.
Yes.
Somebody take a deep breath. Because what's on there? Okay, and all it does is get me involved in that conversation. And I get sucked into it, and I hate to admit it, I do. Because it's easier to be there than it is in the good space. Now, I have been called Pollyanna quite a bit. And in a way, that's true. Because, it's looking at the highest and best. And this, Paul is saying, speak good words that edify, that make a difference, that uplift. And if I can't speak those words, I'm better off not speaking any words. Okay, pretty clear. Okay, what's interesting is that Jesus said over in Matthew, this one's really wild. Matthew, I'll find it here in a minute. Matthew 12:27. Oh no, 37. Matthew 12:37. For by thy words thou shalt be justified. So justified means proven able or proven accurate. So our words justify who we are. They prove who we are. Okay, and by thy words shalt thou be condemned, which means strong disapproval. Okay, that's Jesus' words. So I keep putting that together. Now, honestly, I don't want to hear this. Because all of a sudden I'm starting to hear myself more and more talk in those, do I call them not edifying ways? But it really, if everything I'm speaking, there to uplift, to support, to make a difference, and to help people in life. And when I am not using those words, it's not true. So I really have to look at that for myself. And I'm feeling that I'm being rather strident in that issue. And the truth is, I'm really working on becoming that individual that makes a difference in life, if you understand. Because I know that, and see, it's like knowing about these things is different than living these things. Everybody got that? I've studied this stuff for years and years, and I can remember thinking, when I first got it, a new thought. We got in through the conversations of Catherine Ponder. So I got in for the money that was going to float out of heaven, you know. If I said enough affirmations, I was going to be wealthy. But there's a whole process, there's a whole thing in this. And it includes the meditation, it includes reading, it includes affirmation, and it also includes what am I speaking into manifestation. And so I have to look at that in entering this new year, and I have to look at it for myself personally, but I also have to talk about it here. Because it's the truth from what I can tell. And everywhere, it talks about making a joyful noise. All these words in this book talk about praise and worship and joy and all those good things. And in talking about only that, what our conversation, I stop and think I probably wouldn't have anything to talk about. Anybody familiar with any time we get, what do we call it, casual talk? And we just sit and talk, we have a conversation, we're going to complain about what? The weather, the local ordinance, whatever, well, you know, the traffic. I can complain about Austin traffic very easily. And so...
Small talk, that's what I was looking for,
thank you. But in small talk, we go into those categories. So I'm wondering what it would be like to be totally positive in my conversation all the time. And what kind of reaction would I have with you and others listening to me? In the past, I've had people say, "Oh, you just swat him out of the way," because I don't want to hear that Pollyanna stuff. And so we all have a tendency to not go there. And the small talk, thank you, RJ, the small talk that we get into is generally, oh, thank you. Now I have to edify you.
I think you just did.
The word edify is a fantastic word. It really is. It's an all-encompassing word. And it's a word that I'm bringing into, I've used it before, but I'm more aware of it in today's world. So it's fascinating to me that the key that is being said everywhere is talking in a positive manner for everything in my life. And anytime I think about you or talk about you, Spirit is saying, talk good. Now, I have faults. Okay? And does it do me any good to talk about them? No. Admit them, yeah. Part of the self-development process is looking at where I am. But in some of the work I used to do, we would look at all your faults, look at all your strengths, and then pick a fault and work on it. Aren't we better off picking a strength and working on it? Because if I focus on a fault, what do I create?
More fault.
More fault. So this idea that I can gain strength through overcoming my faults might be, let's take a look at my strengths and build them high enough that they overcome my faults. Because we're human beings living in a human existence, but we're spiritual beings living in a physical body in this process. So as a spiritual being, are we perfect? Yes. Do we act perfect? No, because we're in the material body. But are we edifying and praising and joying the spiritual part of us? And so the more we talk about it and the more we edify it, the more we bring it into awareness. It's a fascinating idea. I was looking also at the Daily Word today. And it's again, I talked about going to McDonald's for lunch, for breakfast in the morning before here. And it's amazing to me, the Daily Word. And it always fits into what I'm going to talk about. But it says, the vision and love of unity is still waiting to be expressed fully. So the vision of love In other words, within each one of us is this vision of love. Anybody agree that you've had that idea? What is possible? What is possible? What is possible? What is possible for me to do? What is possible for human beings to do? What is possible for me to do in my career, in my life, in my family, as a spiritual community? What is possible? And it is not expressed yet. So the Daily Word says the vision of love and unity is still waiting to express fully. Then it goes on and says, we must relinquish our resistance and turn our focus from mortal concerns to external truth. See, the mortal concerns are the things to worry about, the traffic, the health, the whatever it is, all these mundane issues we deal with. But if you stop and think about it, what's the truth? Each one of us is a child of God, complete and whole, just as we are. We are God expressing itself, and we have within us the power to express God. And when we gather together in a community, we have even more power, because the power expressed together is even geometrically beyond singularity. So what could we create as a group? We don't even know that yet. Okay? Can you imagine what's going to be happening around here 5 years, 10 years from now? Okay, it's interesting to me. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but they need the loan company that I'm talking to needs a letter from the board here saying that you're going to keep me around for a while. Okay. What can I say?
Robert, we are accepting bribes.
And so you stop and think about that. Where am I going? 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And of course, then the mortal ideas come, well, gee, I'll be older. But what's possible? How long can somebody live? How long can somebody express? How long can somebody create? How long can somebody make a difference? So all these negative thoughts creep in, but then what are we expressing? What is possible? Where are we going? Especially together. Okay? So in expressing that, but it was really real to me. I had to look at my own mortality. What is it? I don't know. I hope you keep me around for a while. But the whole idea is we have automatic limitations created by the outside world. And they're not true, because we are a child of God, expressing God. And our job here is to express God, not the ego. Okay? We had, I don't know, my mind's going. Yesterday, of course, in Miracles, we had a very interesting conversation. And the conversation got, believe it or not, in a Course in Miracles class, into suicide. Okay? And somebody brought up the fact of why would somebody do that? And an individual in the class had been through that process personally. And he said, you have no idea what it's like to believe that you don't belong here. Okay, now that my heart went out on that. But if you stop and think about it, he said, am I valuable enough to be here, to take up space? And so what was being said was, I am not that child of God. And see, the reason I bring that up is, what is our potential when we really believe we're a child of God? And everything you read, everything, the Bible, everything around us tells us you're a child of God. And you're an expression of God. And once I step into that and believe that, what's possible? So that's where we are. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this. We must release our resistance and turn our focus from mortal concerns to eternal truth and allow Spirit within to do the work of creating the kingdom through us. See, that's the key. We're right back to we are God in expression. We are God's hands and fingers and ideas and creations. So what can we create? It's up to us. And so learning to go from complaining, criticizing, and condemning to edifying is, I believe, one of the big steps. And do we all have limitations? Certainly. But I certainly don't help your limitations in bringing them up to you and talking about them. So part of my existence from now on is edifying myself. Please understand, usually our biggest critic is ourselves. And it's learning to love self, to enjoy self, and understand who we are. And then number 2, edifying, loving, and appreciating those around us. So I want you to look around. Okay? Look around. Okay, this is God in manifestation. With all our lumps, with all our peculiarities, whatever it is. And each one of us is all expressing God the best way we know how. And so in that process, I really believe the idea of edifying is what I'm working for this year. To my personal program on a daily basis. You want to say something?
So I have some personal experience that person in your group that said, you don't really understand.
Yes.
So once upon a time, I had all from my life, my job was who I was. So to speak.
My job is, yeah.
So I was fired, and I discovered what depression really can be, and I had no clue what depression could be.
Yes.
It was physical, a physical weight on my chest that it was literally like having a 500-pound anvil pressing on my chest for a number of days, and I just stayed in bed. And somehow I went within, and something said, "You need to go and talk to these people. They're making a mistake." And so the Spirit in me said, I need to go back and fight for my job. And I did that. And it turns out they changed their mind and hired me back.
That's great.
Wow.
It's a great story. And one of the reasons I brought that idea up was the ego wants to take us out. Now that's in most spiritual literature, that sooner or later, that physical part of us doesn't want us to be happy, doesn't want us to succeed. God part of us wants us to be happy, to thrive, to be in wealth, to be in health, and to be in happiness. That part of us. So it's staying in that part of us. And see, what you did was you went into silence. You said, okay, I'm going to live with this. And then the answer came. There's another hand going to my left.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting. You're noticing that some people are choosing to abstain from TV.
Yes.
Because so much of the content in TV is making us feel less than, because
Yes.
that's how they can sell to us.
Yes.
By making you feel like you don't have enough of any
I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough.
See, that's why I stay away from, you're recording this, I'm going to say it, from Facebook. I don't go there. Because there's all this stuff that people make up and then put it on, and it makes us feel less than. I don't go there. Yes?
Interesting. We were just talking about this yesterday. I watched a interview with the ex-executive of Facebook.
Yeah.
And he was commenting on how they didn't intend it, but by the design, technology is ripping apart the social connection between
Ripping apart the social connections.
and that we now live in a very toxic and very, very destructive, and I won't go into detail, but it was a very fascinating interview with this man. But it's causing things where there's like false validation, where if someone just approves, they then justify in your mind that it is truth.
Yes.
Or they disapprove or dislike, it becomes like, it just creates these terrible toxic kind of feelings.
Yeah.
And so his thing was, he said, this ex-executive of Facebook said that in his house, no one's allowed on the phone. No one's allowed on Facebook. He cut off. His solution is to abstain from that as much as possible.
Very interesting.
Which comes back to the TVs.
Yeah, we have somebody in the congregation that won't even go on email. Because no communication other than face-to-face. Right, Mr. Messenger? He won't. Tom.
So I absolutely agree with what you're saying there and what that executive said. And I even see Spirit working in that Mark Zuckerberg has said that he is making it his personal mission to stop how it's been hijacked, how Facebook has been hijacked by forces that want to, and in effect, hijack our thoughts, if you will. So he literally wants to make a difference and stop what has happened on Facebook.
Good.
And so that's the beginning of a positive. And plus, the whole world is seeing what it's done, so it's alerted the world to watch that Facebook stuff. Because look what U.S. did. Look what happened to the U.S.
Yeah. Okay.
through that.
Now what I'm going to do is reverse it. Has Facebook done good in life?
Yes.
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 It's a means of communication that has worked for a lot of people. Just to give you an example, my brother was in the hospital with a triple bypass. I didn't know it. My daughter was on Facebook, picked up an announcement, he sent it to me, so I found out within 2 days through my daughter on Facebook that he was in the hospital. I would not have known it. So there's goods that, what we're going to do is make sure we balance everything. In other words, Facebook has its fault as it has its positive. Yes.
I just want to say, it sounded like from Ephesians that you were no longer being Pollyanna.
Yes.
This year you're going to be Pollyanna.
Thank you, Paul. By the way, I've had a resistance to Paul's work in the past, and all of a sudden he's cool. Okay? Because he's telling the truth. But I'm going to finish with this. You ready? This is Ephesians 2, 3, 20, and 21 that Valerie read earlier. And I'd like to read it. I want you to really, you ready? Mm-hmm. Listen. It says, now to him who by the power at work within us, do you hear that? The power at work within us, all of us. In other words, God's present everywhere within every one of us, is able to accomplish abundantly. In other words, we're holding ourselves back because we can accomplish abundantly through God in us far more than all we can ask or imagine. How much would that be? Stop and think about it. Someday I wish. Well, someday I wish it would happen plus 2, 3, 4 more times. Then it goes on and says, to them be the glory forever and ever. So as we practice these ideas, good things happen. And guess what? The only way to get to the good things happening is to do the work. Which means every day, every day, every day. I love you dearly. Thank you for allowing me to share the new year. RJ wants to talk.
I just wonder if you could just read that passage one more time for us.
Good. Okay. I'm going to put my glasses on to make sure I read it correctly. And I'm going to get rid of the gender biased.
I meant the Bible passage.
Yeah.
It says the Bible passage is the one that was asked about Ephesians.
Yeah.
Ephesians. Which one? Matthew or Ephesians?
Ephesians.
I think I took the, no, there it is. No,
Quality.
I took the, no, it's gone. Okay, I don't have it.
Ephesians 3, 24, 29.
It's Ephesians 4:29, I know, but I didn't have Ephesians marked. I took it out, so it's gone. Basically, it said, don't talk negative, edify only, which means build up. In other words, encourage, love, appreciate. I know you can do it. Encouragement. And I know you have the capability to do whatever it is you're going to do. Okay? And I love you completely. And you can be the greatest music promoter in the United States. Yes?
Yes.
Anybody agree with
Yes.
that? Marsha.
Well, okay, so I've stopped watching so much TV. I've been able to stop it entirely.
No, don't take anything personal. In other words, we're sharing ideas.
But, so when you see something, sometimes it's really hard. It's a challenge. What's the word? It's a challenge to flip it over and say, okay, here are people in control who are helping us speed toward becoming a better country.
In their opinion.
Well, no, I meant sometimes negative things can speed progress and change.
Yeah, if we take a look at it.
Yeah, and I think that's
After church today.
Yeah, we're going to have conversations with Robert after in church.
yeah. So I was hoping.
We'd love to interact on that. We really would. The idea is, though, when I have gone into what I call a news fast, in other words, not listen to anything, I always find out the things that are necessary for me to know.
Yeah.
Okay, always. Anybody been there? You always find out. And the things I don't need to know, I don't
Yeah,
know.
waste time.
Okay, good. Tom is standing in the back. He said I speak too long, so we're going to bring this to an end.
People did.
You ready? I love you. Thank you.